17 months ago, the Chaketrix and Carnitrix combined and gave us the most feral alien girls of all time. But what has happened to Ben Tennyson since then? Let's find out. Like and subscribe if you're new. Now this watch spawns alien girls just like the Chaketrix, but unlike those sweet girls like Heartblast and Wild Girl, we get feral aliens who have a sadistic love for Ben. This led to a few major events in the AU and a lot of new things as well, like Vilgax being a good guy and Azimuth being an intergalactic pervert. But let's start with one of the most impactful moments, which is the Ultra T event. Ultra T or Upgrade is a corrupted mechamorph from the watch that, just like the other aliens, was obsessed with Ben Tennyson. However, her crazed love fueled her and caused her to escape the Omnitrix, taking the life of Feedback in the process and becoming an antagonist to Ben and his family, sort of like Malware. But just like Malware, Ben scrambled her with the Charnitrix, which left her in a disrupted state. Pretty similar so far to how it all played out with Malware. However, here is where we have a very big difference. This allowed Vilgax and his Galvans to recover her remains, in hopes of putting her back together. They most likely ended up perfecting the Helix that Azimuth was working on in the original timeline. That was a device that not only created the mechamorphs in the first place, but was supposed to be what healed Malware of his corruption. They end up being successful with fixing Ultra T, and it gives us a glimpse into what might have actually happened to Malware in the Prime timeline, with the result being a new alien summon called Nega T. Nega T returns to being a part of the Charnitrix, and her powers themselves have been completely changed. She now doesn't corrupt technology like before when she merges, but her mergers are more like the typical mechamorph that we know. However, hers has a slight drawback. So let's say, for example, before the merger you have a phone that's at 73%, and then she merges with it, unmerges, and now it's at 69%. Her personality has also changed a lot, as she has moved from being a crazed yandere girl to now being a harmless, low self-esteem shy girl. It's kinda adorable. This cured personality is a lot more innocent and pure, like those Chaketrix girls, minus this freaky ass tattoo. Some people confuse her with the other blue mechamorph in this universe, which is Firewall, who was one of the first uncorrupted of his species with a very docile mindset. He has a design a lot like Malware if he was fixed. While talking about this, it forces me to ask the question about this Azimuth's mechamorphs. Now, as we all know, Azimuth himself created the mechamorphs through the use of the helix on the moon of Galvan, called Galvan B. It was a happy accident that created this new species that could merge and transmute tech into something new and much better. But for the Charnitrix mechamorphs, do they all reside on the moon of the Galvan planet just like the Prime timeline? And are they all corrupted and in need of being cured? It is interesting, as this freaky version of Azimuth might have created a new techno-organic species that are all sadistic viruses. Anyways, besides the mechamorph returning to the watch, there are a lot of other aliens who are new since our last time. A whole 8 brand new transformations and a new character. Let's get into it. Firstly is the corrupted Wildvine or Florana DNA sample. This is more like a predatory Venus flytrap type of plant. She is very shy, but also can be pretty playful. A great recommendation though is that you shouldn't approach her mouth for obvious reasons. You might end up being AIDS, and not in the good way. Just like Wildvine, she has seeds, but instead of seed bombs, they are poisonous. The next alien is Kicklings, which is the corrupted fast track alien, or a Citricaya. She's mostly legs and no arms actually, and can use Skywalk for anyone who is a One Piece fan out there. But if you don't know, she's basically able to kick the air, which she can use to propel herself, which is already 10 times better than ass crack. Because she wears a face mask like Toxon from Max Steel, she's always inhaling toxins that give her energy. But I would assume because of the mask, she's unable to speak, and she never ever stops moving, because
she's a runner, she's a track star. She gonna run away when it gets hard.
Morte Shockley is our Transyllian sample, who is a corrupted version of Frankenstrike. But since it's a girl, she has Frankenstein's bride hairstyle, which is pretty cool, not going to lie. She is speech impaired, so she doesn't communicate coherently, but she does sign language, which is pretty dope. Fun fact, I used to do that in high school, and now I only know 3 letters. So I guess what a skill, right? She's actually really polite and also very afraid of fire, which makes sense because next up is Yen, a female Labuan who is obviously very deep into the legend of the Yenaldoshi, with her Indian adornments and clothing, which, I guess it makes sense since the real life Yenaldoshi is rooted in Navajo lore. She is very paranoid and has an endless appetite because she doesn't want to let the wolf out. Very interesting that she has to try and keep that rabid feral side of her controlled by eating. Plus she kinda resembles Kai for some reason. We follow up with a hybrid DNA sample. I think Ben should have gotten himself the transformation in the prime timeline ages ago, since one of them dog walked Humongosaur and smashed Swampfire. She is a 100% pure specimen in the watch, a full-blooded hybrid, and she has that inferiority complex just like the rest of her race, as she believes that all other races are inferior to the hybrids, and she likes to dominate them as well. Oh boy, that explains the hat, doesn't it? Okay, next up is this freaky deaky alien, which is Bullfrog. She's a very flirty incursion alien, which makes a little bit of sense. She sounds like Bullfrog so far. She likes to belittle those who thinks of themselves too highly. Sounds kinda like a dominatrix for rich people, but she also likes to make out with Ben with that crazy long ass tongue. Oh lord. Anyways, Wrath, the apoplexian female, looks so posh. She wears clothes, which is because of her species' innate shame. She is very argumentative, which makes sense because apoplexians are so emotional. And just look at her, she also kinda looks like a sphinx. Probably is a sphinx. She looks like one of those types of ladies used to do wine tasting and eating exotic cheeses. I don't know, might just be me. Next up is our giant girl, who is the insane looking Toku star Weibig. She is a very calm girl, like most Toku stars are, but what's not so calm about her is the fact that she runs on all fours and has the wildness of a Weibad. She takes commands from Ben pretty easily, and she likes to watch him sleep, which is kinda creepy, I know. However, a major thing to note though is the existence of— wait, where's that music coming from? Meet Generator Rex, or Rex Salazar. He is Providence's #1 weapon, which means he is a very, very dangerous Evo hunter. Instead of having control over regular nanites that have infected the world just like in his original show, he has a degenerative nanites, which are called Nani, that he uses to do two major things: creating his nanite fueled weapons like his blades and those big arms, and to also cure infected Evos. The nanites in Rex limbs are independent of each other, which allows him to create different weapon combinations, so he has a little bit more flexibility than the original Rex, well, at the start of the show at least. The real question does now come down to whether this Rex shares a universe with Charnitrix Ben. But if you know the answer to that down below, let me know in the comments. I think the Charnitrix is a very interesting alternate universe for Ben 10. We haven't been getting a lot of content for it lately, but I still think it's super interesting and probably deserves a comic akin to what we are getting from the Chaketrix. I'm all for seeing the aliens jump out of the Omnitrix. We've seen it a few times in the original series, but seeing it done by fans is also just as great. Let me know in the comments down below what's your favorite alternate universe. And thanks for watching.
I'm going ghost!
Don't bother, because there's a serious problem with these ghost powers. Let me explain.